How was it gonna make an interlude about so nice to listen to? Could have taken me 10 years to do another Frank Ocean reaction. He still wouldn't have put out another album. So we're here now, doing this together. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Bees. And before you start saying so in the comments, I know it's taken me so long to get to another Frank Ocean album to react to here on the channel, but today is the day. We are finally going to peel into Channel Orange. You guys like that pun? I'm the funniest goddamn guy you know. I know it's taken a while for me to do another Frank Ocean reaction, but I think when I reacted to Blonde, which I loved, and just knowing that I loved it, you'd think I'd do Channel Orange very quickly after, but that was kind of when my channel was moderately popping off and I wanted to get to so many different artists and so many different bands and albums that I wanted to do that ultimately Frank Ocean kind of got lost in the sauce, which again is unfortunate because of how much I loved Blonde. You know, not being a native R&B listener, I guess, and really not a listener of any of his cohorts, so I know, like, what was it? It's all of, like, the Tyler, the Creator guys. I forget what outfit that is, but I know, like, Frank's a part of that, so a lot of that had been foreign to me. And that was kind of great to listen to that and to get my reaction out of it, because I hadn't really listened to anything that had sounded like that before. So I was driving a little bit today, running around, doing some errands, and I put on Blonde and was kind of skipping around a little bit, and was just taken back to just the atmosphere that he's able to create in songs like Nike and Pink White, and then Self-Control. I lost all sense of self-control during that song. The like non-linear compositions and the peaks and valleys when the drop, quote unquote, comes in, it's just it's really something to marvel at. And you know, they're very, like, technical albums, I would say, as well, but not necessarily in the sense where it's like, okay, well, this person's a very technical guitarist. Technical in the sense that, like, I just can't even fathom how he's producing the things that he's producing in the studio, or, you know, okay, I want this sound for this long, and then this sound for that long, and then we get into this, and we get into that, and I know I'm talking very grandiose and I'm not really using any particular language here, but I think that just kind of goes to show how far up on the scale of creativity and notoriety that Frank Ocean really deserves to be in. So I'm very excited to get into Channel Orange today, but before we get into it, please do let me know your thoughts on my thoughts down in the comments below as we go through this album. Also, if you want to catch us live, make sure you click one of the links down in the description, and if you miss any of these lives, make sure you go ahead and check out my Patreon, where you can get those reactions uncut, unedited before they come out on YouTube for just $1. And to see when I'm going live, make sure you subscribe. I also never tell you guys to like the video, and you do anyway, so thank you so much. But go ahead and like the video still, if you like it. If you hate it, please still like the video. That's like a troll, you know? It's like you're trolling me. Oh, I hate this video, so I'm gonna like it, right? It's a troll. It's really funny. You're really showing me. So yeah, I don't know how much more preamble we need. This is Channel Orange. It came out probably when I started high school. I mean, 13 years ago. I know that this is required reading for any music chad out there. I'm looking at, I recognize a couple of these songs. I definitely heard Pyramids before, and I remember watching Forrest Gump being performed live at either the AMAs or the Grammys, but I don't really even know what the hell that song sounds like. But it's looking like the two biggest hits on the album, as per the Spotify plays, right? Thinkin' Bout You and Lost have well over 1.3 billion plays, which is a little ridiculous. And, you know, like I said, Frank Ocean's really beloved by his fan base and by vinyl collectors, if you know what I mean. I always enjoy the Tumblr albums. I didn't know this was a Tumblr album. I always felt like, yeah, Born to Die by Lana Del Rey, and like that was it. Like, that was the only Tumblr album. So this is Channel Orange. I'm very quite excited to see Mr. Frank here again. From 2012, 17 songs, 55 minutes, 47 seconds. We're going to start with Start, which we will probably just let it bleed into Thinkin' Bout You. Not the PS1 startup screen. That's awesome. How's Sony gonna let him do that? Thinking about you. This is...
A tornado flew around my room before you came. Excuse me.
This is the vibe. I didn't know this was Frank Ocean.
A potato flew around my room before you came.
'Cause I've been thinking about forever. Ooh. Or do you not think so far ahead? 'Cause I've been thinking about forever. Think so far ahead. 'Cause I've been thinking about forever. Ooh. Yes, of course. I remember, how could I forget how you feel?
Okay, so, I mean, first things first, it's Frank Ocean, so it's fantastic. But once again, I am a wrong and incorrect idiot and a liar because I have heard this song before. This was the potato flew around my room before you came in Vine meme. I just got done saying how, this album came out when I was in high school. That was the first time I'd ever heard of Frank Ocean, probably a lot of other people as well. And I love through this journey that we've been going through on this channel, finding the meme songs anywhere we can unexpectedly. So what it was, A Day to Remember was the meme song. Disrespect Your Surroundings. Bring Me the Horizon was another one. That was like the Giga Chad meme. So yeah, this see, you think that this is just a channel about me reacting to music, but it is not. It is me finding indirectly the origins of memes. This is just know your meme, but in the most annoying way possible. That's all this channel is. This hits when reminiscing about an ex. I'll be honest with you, I was so taken aback by the fact that this was a meme song and just kind of fell into the vibe that I really wasn't paying attention to the lyrics that much, but this is about you, right? It is singing it the only way that Frank Ocean can, right? So I think we talked a lot about this on Blonde, right? Even between a lot of the vocal mods that appeared on that album, Frank, his register is just so wide and deep, between where he just kind of comes in singing in that lower tone, and then he, like, that falsetto he has is just heartbreaking. Given PlayStation 1 into Vine memes, this is starting out real well, guys. This is starting out real well. But we'll play Fertilizer into Sierra Leone.
Fertilizer, I'll take bullshit if that's all you got.
How is it going to make an interlude about shit so nice to listen to? Sierra Leone?
Horses gallop to her throne. We're behaving like teenagers. Yes, we're behaving like teenagers. Making less than minimum wage. Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone. In the middle days, we're bringing every crying babe into the world. Hey, whoa, yeah. Our daughter's reaching for your nipple 'cause it's time to hurt it.
So, something that I forgot to add when I was kind of reminiscing about Blonde was that it wasn't so apparent, but, Frank does include this subtle sense of humor into a lot of his music, or at least a lot of what I heard on Blonde. I now have listened to Blonde plus 4 tracks off of Channel Orange here. And Fertilizer, it's just like a funky, nice sounding little beat. Well, let's get back to the lyrics here because this is just fantastic. Fertilizer. I'll take bullshit if that's all you got. That's like, what? And you can grow something beautiful out of it. How about that? You take a shit sandwich, turn it into a bed of flowers. Amazing. Terrific even. And so then we go back into Sierra Leone. I don't know if this is a little bit more autobiographical, if he is from Sierra Leone or if that's like a, device that he's using. Take his word for it. But the R&B works so well when you're yearning for love or for another person. I think that's why a lot of that music tends to be about that. It's like love songs. That's always my understanding. I have a very surface level understanding of it. So please do let me know if I'm right or wrong about that. But I hear it. I hear the music. I hear the words, and it just makes sense. And it's all with Frank's flavoring here. Now, somebody mentioned here in the chat, and I thank you for this. This album is called Channel Orange because he's switching channels like sort of on a TV. Orange was the color he saw with synesthesia when he fell in love with a boy in the summer. The songs are him returning to that color. So I believe that we talked about that in the Blonde reaction. I could be wrong. Maybe there is another. No, actually, I am wrong. It's Lorde that I'm thinking of. I think Lorde has synesthesia, and there was like a fight that she had with like Jack Antonoff by saying like, no, this song isn't purple enough. We need to make it more purple. That's what it was. It was around the same time that we reacted to both albums, I think. Channel Orange is a little bit more accessible than Blonde, but that's not a complaint at all. So far, that's what I'm getting. I was going to hazard to say that, but so far in the first 4 tracks, the structure is much more similar to something you'd hear from, I think, any other artist. Not necessarily, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, bridge, that kind of thing, but pretty close. I mean, they are more straightforward, and that's not to say that I'm going to knock it for that, because it's kind of nice to listen to that, where it's just Frank being, well, I think, I don't know, maybe Blonde was more Frank being Frank. I don't know. I still don't know Channel Orange, but so far I was thinking that we're on the same page there. We move on. Sweet Life, not of Zach nor Cody.
Palm trees and pools, the water's blue, swallow the pill, keeping it surreal. Is a line, a sweet life, a sweet life, sweet life, sweet life, sweet life, a sweet, sweet, sweet. You've had a landscaper and a housekeeper since you were born. The sunshine always kept you warm. Transmitting away, you're catching that breeze till you're dead in the grave, but you're keeping it so real. Whatever you like, live and die in the life. You've had a landscaper and a housekeeper since you were born.
Oh, man.
The sunshine always kept you warm. It's going ape shit crazy. You've had a landscaper and a housekeeper since you were born. The sunshine always kept you warm. The sweet life.
Oh, it's so much fun. Okay, so I know that this next one's pretty short, but let's go back to Sweet Life here. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, what the hell, man? What the hell? Hopefully, I should say this. I'm glad I haven't been called out on this, because it's seldom ever the case. But I'm thinking of something, and then somebody says it in chat, so I never want to get called like, oh, you just say whatever the chat says. No. But Blair here in the chat did say, okay, Stevie Wonder, and it was giving me songs in the key of life vibes, right? And if you haven't listened to Stevie Wonder, what the fuck are you doing? That we just talked about in the last couple of tracks, right? How this is already seemingly so much more accessible from maybe a traditional song structure standpoint with all of the sounds, but that point where I just kind of like guffawed and laughed when everything kind of just dropped unexpectedly and like the whole band came in with it. I feel like that happened a lot on Blonde, where I was kind of just like, had a little bit of whiplash where like I just wasn't expecting maybe like a wall of sound at any given point. Here it comes in a little bit more gracious though. It comes in and it makes a little bit more sense, right? With just, traditional instruments being played on a R&B soul type of track, we get that horn section in the background. And then is it just Frank singing on this and they're multi-tracking his vocals, or is there somebody else who sings on this song as well? Nah, it's just Frank, I think. How about that, man? I mean, I could be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong down in the comments. But I mean, he can be like 9 different singers in a fucking song, for God's sakes, just with what he can do with his voice. We got a comment here. I love how he's critiquing luxury in this song. Well, yeah, he just needs the sweet life, He doesn't need the HD TV. It's too real. He wants to escape that shit. He wants to be on the beach. Just give me a couple mangoes, a few limes, I'll be good. Yeah, sure, you could buy the whole world, but, sometimes all you need is a beach. Now, I am not a ocean beach person. Coming from good old Northeast Ohio, I'm by the Great Lakes, America's North Coast, if you will. And I remember when I went to the ocean for the first time, and it smelled like fucking shit. It smells fucking weird. So give me a freshwater lake with a beach and I'm set. And I can enjoy myself on an ocean beach. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, we'll do Not Just for Money right into Super Rich Kids.
Too many bottles of this wine we can't pronounce. Too many bowls of that green, no Lucky Charms. The maids come around too much. I prefer expensive news. New car, new girl, new ice, new glass, new watch, good times, babe. It's good times, yeah. She wash my back 3 times a day. This shower head feels so amazing. We'll both be high.
With raggy hands and mammy done had enough. Brash as fuck, breaching all these aqueducts. Don't believe us, treat us like we can't erupt. Yeah.
Close my eyes and feel the crash. Too many bottles of this wine we can't pronounce. Too many bowls of that green, no Lucky Charms. The maids come around too much.
That bass is insane.
Parents ain't around enough. I can buy real love.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but gee fucking whiz. Gee whiz. So we got Earl's Sweatshirt here on the track, and it seems as though, that there is a obvious theme that's a part of this album. It might not be the theme, and it might not be the underlying point that it's trying to make, but right now we are in this stage of the album between the last 3 tracks here, between Sweet Life, Not Just Money, and Super Rich Kids. This idea of what wealth really means, what's important in life when you have those means, right? And this one, there's really no grandiose kind of interpretation you need to make on it or read too far into it. They come at you pretty explicitly here. Apparently Earl's Sweatshirt was high and sick when he recorded this, which is just amazing if that's true. Let's see, this is actually about a real friend that Frank had who had money but no real direction in life, rich parents in the industry, and died from an overdose. Jesus. So that's sad as hell. But coming, because look, I didn't have the worst growing up, but shit, I mean, I grew up poor as shit. We had food stamps. I stood in line in fucking food drive lines, right? I've, been so fortunate to have every privilege that's been afforded to me. But that being said, I'm coming from the inner city, and I'd go, when I went to college, and meeting people with actual money, and then I told them where I lived, and they're like, oh, you live in the hood. I'm like, that's not even the hood. I can take you to the fucking hood. Just because I don't live in a gated community does not mean I'm from the fucking hood. So there's like that disconnect there just for how you perceive things. And, you know, I was just telling somebody about this. Like, there's this concept, and I wish I knew the exact concept. Maybe I throw it up on screen, maybe I don't. But basically, it goes on to say, like, one of the reasons why, like, people like LeBron James are so successful is because they came from nothing. They had to work to get everything they had. It was nothing but an uphill battle. And there's that motivation, there's that ambition there to be the best despite it all. Where, you know, you might have, you know, kids going to basketball camps, you know, and they got the hoop in their driveway, you know, and they get all their friends over and all that, and they're always playing games, and, you know, oh, my ball broke. Oh, that's okay. We'll just buy you a new ball, kind of a thing. We're like, dude, like, LeBron was like sleeping on fucking couches for years, right? Mom wasn't in the picture really for, you know, for some of it. So yeah. So if it's about the friend where it came from money, when you have all of life's options afforded to you, you know, it's hard to make a decision. It might be harder to pinpoint what you're passionate about and to pinpoint what exactly you're good at and what's worth your time when you realistically have all the time in the world. Like, what if I introduce your head to the hood of your car, rich shit? What the fuck are you talking about? If some rich brat called my place the hood, I will throw hands. No, and you want to know, the person who said that to me was a white dude with dreadlocks. No shit. So yeah, you know, I don't think that this is like, the album didn't start out with this theme of money or like critiquing class, critiquing wealth, you know, and like, as opposed to what really matters in life. But I like how they've included this maybe trinity of sorts. So we'll see if this frame of mind kind of continues here. Pilot Jones.
We once had things in common. You always smoking in the house. What if my mother comes over? You can't get up and get a job, 'cause this little hustle's getting you by. You came stumbling across my lawn again. Just don't know why. I keep on trying to keep a grown woman sober. See there, you go reaching up your blouse. And no, I don't want no child. Pilot Jones, in the sky up above. Yes, I saw the sky like I've never seen before. Yeah, thought I was above.
All right, so we'll pause it there before we head into the next track. You know, and I haven't mentioned this nearly enough, but the production on this project is absolutely terrific, much like Blonde was, so that's really no surprise there. I guess I'm not trying to, you know, belabor the point, but just how the basses come through is just awesome. It just fills my ears in the best ways, but doesn't distract me from the rest of the sounds going on. And, you know, as far as what this song's about, right? We know that in Blonde, he was smoking weed, and he's smoking weed here. I feel like Frank is one of those stoners who doesn't like smoke to get high. He smokes to remember and think. He smokes to yearn. He smokes to feel more. Or maybe he's completely sober. I don't know. He was smoking much more weed on Blonde. Well, and that's it, like, you know, so far it's still ringing true. This is a much more accessible project than everything we've listened to, but not to say that they're doing anything simply. There's a lot of production techniques going on in the background for when they're bringing the bass in and when they take it out, or, you know, I'm hearing like not as like many like sprites or anything in the background. Really, it's more of a straightforward structure more than anything else. They're still cooking in the booth. He's still doing wonders on vocals. It's more so just the structure of the songs are so much more linear. And I can really appreciate that. Anyway, we're moving on. This is Crack Rock.
Middle of Arkansas, with a little rock left in that glass stick. Used to date a blonde.
Sure.
You used to hit it raw. Crack rock, crack rock. Crack rock, crack rock. Hitting stones in glass homes. You're smoking stones in abandoned homes. You're itching for your family stopped inviting you to things. Won't let you hold the infant. You used to get a little from time to time. But the freaks ain't trying to sleep with crackhead. Hitting stones in glass homes. You're so good for community. Fucking picket shots. 300 men will search for me. My brother get pox. And don't know I'd hear the sound. Don't know I'd hear the round. How's the gutter doing? Crack rock.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. It's another one. You know, I'm all for people doing what they want to their own bodies, cause ain't nobody gonna tell me. But drugs are bad. Okay, right? The old South Park adage: crack is whack. Crack is whack, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't know that already, obviously the best way to not be a crackhead is to never do crack. However, I loved the wordplay in this song. It was essentially this was essentially slam poetry. It was really just amazing. But between everything that he's using, every little device that he's using in this, so you don't know how little you matter till you're all alone, right? So you can be isolated from substances, right? As a result of using them, right? In the middle of Arkansas with the little rock left in that glass. I'm just not saying that. I'm just not saying it. It's too real for me. But in the middle of Arkansas with the Little Rock, Arkansas, right? Which is just crazy. That's just crazy wordplay there. If you know anything about America, you know how the crack epidemic hit black communities really first and foremost. And I think maybe he's talking about something within his own personal life here, but like in the middle of Arkansas with the Little Rock. So like Little Rock, Arkansas, you go back and Little Rock, I won't regale you with everything Little Rock has to do with like the civil rights movement, but just Google Little Rock, Arkansas civil rights. You'll figure it out. So there's that connection for me there, right? Hitting stones in glass homes. You're smoking stones in abandoned homes. And so there's this double entendre with like, you know, they say don't throw stones at glass houses, and then relaying that into smoking stones in abandoned homes. So smoking stones to crack rock, right? It's not that complex, but when I'm reading it, I'm just like, wow, I love wordplay. I love when things can have multiple meanings with rhymes. Yeah, fuck, dude. God damn it. And, you know, given the whole like civil rights thing with, you know, and the crack epidemic, you know, that's totally tied with how cops and authority is perceived in this country here too. You know, no good for a community, pig get shot. And the repetitive nature of, you know, don't know one, the crack rock. All these little repetitive things, like it's giving slam poetry. Yeah. This was terrific. This from terrific alone, just from a lyric point of view, you could just read this and go, okay, damn. All right, I'm really jiving with this. But then, you know, you get Frank's voice and you get the production and you're just off to the races. Okay, so this is Pyramids. I know I've heard the hook of Pyramids. I've definitely been somewhere where I've heard this entire song, but I've never sat down and really analyzed it, really breathed it in. So that's what we're doing today. This is effectively a reaction, but if you want to get technical about it, I have heard this song before. And given how many plays there are on this song, whoa, this isn't one of the biggest ones. This was like, if I didn't know a Frank Ocean song, it was usually this one before I reacted to Blonde. So sit tight.
Cleopatra, run, Cleopatra, comes back for my glory. Bring her back to me. Cleopatra, run, Cleopatra, crown chandelier. Apricot jewel. What good is a jewel that ain't still precious? How could you run off on me? How could you run off on us? 6-inch heels catch her. She's headed to the pyramid. She's working at the pyramid tonight. Working at the pyramid. Working at the pyramid tonight. Working, twisting my cigars. Floor model TV with the VCR. Got rubies in my damn chain. Whip ain't got no gas tank, but hit the strip and my bills paid. Keep a nigga bills paid.
Okay, little
She's
trumpet.
working at the pyramid tonight. Working at the pyramid. Working at the pyramid tonight.
I mean, yeah, you know. That's, what if this reaction was just me going, yeah, you know, it's Frank Ocean, what the fuck? So, like I said, I have heard this song before, but really the only part of this song that I can even remember was the Working at the Pyramid Tonight, you know, that main groove towards the second half of the song. And I think this song is really the stepping stone for what we get into in Blonde as far as a little bit less linear structure going on. Now, over the course of 10 minutes, I hope that you don't follow a linear structure, you know, of composition. And that's not at all what happened here. You know, we have this metaphor of sorts going on, you know, where Cleopatra, the crown of our pharaoh, you know, the throne of our king, you know, and all this stuff. So it's relaying this idea of, you know, ancient Egypt, so to speak, and how worshipped Cleopatra was. But that, you know, Cleopatra was also, you know, the ire of many suitors, right? Is that how you use that word? I don't think I used that word correctly. No. Scratch that. I'll use a simpler word. Cleopatra was really the object of a lot of suitors' desires, right? He does a really good job at establishing that as we go on to the second part that maybe brings us more towards modern day, right? You know, so this is a fling or a hookup in a motel pretty clearly. And then she's heading to the pyramid. She's working at the pyramid tonight. So whether or not she's a stripper, I don't know. Or that she just works at this club. Or actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if we run with the whole desert thing with like Egypt, there is a pyramid in Las Vegas and they're talking about the Strip. No, she is a prostitute. No, that's got to be it, right? So she's working at the pyramid because he goes on to say, he kind of brings it home. Where is he talking? Working at the pyramid tonight. Hit the Strip and pay my bills. Yes. So hitting the Vegas Strip. Yeah. No, that's exactly what's going on. He's blinged out. Yeah. She works at the Bass Pro Shop. Yep. That's exactly what it is. She works at the Bass Pro Shop in Memphis, Tennessee, everybody. Could also be a metaphorical pyramid of hierarchy between pimps and prostitutes as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just another, you know, for me, it's all been about the lyrics. Like, it's really exceptional songwriting. You know, I love it when you tickle my brain a little bit. I like missing points. If I interpret a song in a certain way and I get it completely wrong, I like the song almost better because of that, because it allowed me to think. It allowed me to make connections that weren't there before in my life and in my head. Also, this one broke kind of the sonic cohesion of the album a little bit because this one was so much more inherently electronic. So we didn't get as much, you know, traditional soul and R&B sounds out of this one. It was still there, but not. This one was way more like, it wasn't dancey perhaps, but it was definitely way more electronic.
Double D, big full breast on my baby. Lost in the thrill of it all. Miami, Amsterdam, Tokyo, Spain, lost. heat of it all. Girl, you know you're lost, lost in the thrill of it all. Miami, Amsterdam, just for a family of our own. Someday, nothing wrong, nothing wrong, nothing wrong with the life. Nothing wrong with another short plane ride through the sky.
Faith is the substance. Any other channel.
Okay. So that was Lost, and another return to form here, right, from the rest of the album. Though I don't know, this one gave maybe a little bit more like indie than like R&B soul. But Frank will bring the soul. Do not worry. Kind of like a Wanderlust thing going on here, I think. Maybe a little bit closer to the elements and themes of money and wealth, and like having this freedom to travel, and maybe you try and you go and travel to find yourself, and you ended up just being lost in all these other big cities. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, I don't know, but he does sample one of my favorite scenes of all time. It's not even really one of my favorite. It's a pretty good movie. From the film adaptation of Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, one of the final scenes where Raul Duke is sending off his lawyer, good friend and associate, off on a plane, and there's this narration happening over him saying, there he goes, one of God's own prototypes. Too weird to live, too rare to die. I have always loved that line. Hunter S. Thompson's one of my favorite authors, one of my inspirations to get into journalism school, and look where that's gotten me. But I've always found a wonderful attachment to this line, too weird to live and too rare to die. I think that perfectly summarizes and describes so many people that I know in my own life, where you just like, they do things that you just can't relate to, but like you need that energy. You need those kinds of people in your life. White. Little instrumental, maybe? He's just having fun with this one. He's just playing around, being goofy. Monks.
To me, ooh, wave 'em high, girl, to the sky, but you're beautiful. Monks in the mosh pit, stage diving Dalai Lama, feet covered in cut flowers. They mosh for enlightenment, clean chakra, good karma. Oh, woman, much, but please keep up, lover. We've got no choices left. The run is fast. Run. Made it safely. Even with your father's army trailing us, we escaped him. Even with his archers, bows at our backs. Beautiful.
So that was Monks there, as we're working towards the end of this album. And I know I've said I kind of appreciate how accessible a lot of the themes and compositions have been thus far. You throw in some like rapid funk jazz, and that allows you to maybe get rapid and kind of funky with the lyrical content as well. It's how people like to get down, how people like to get crazy, whether it be at a mosh pit at a punk show or moshing at like some Hindu Buddhist festival. Yeah, I was along for the ride. I don't have to get it absolutely to like it. I liked it. I think maybe the fact that it's a little harder to get is kind of the point. I just got done saying how not dreamy this album was in comparison to Blonde, but this one's a little bit more in that dream. The song's so Lynchian. The song's just so Lynchian. Him and Anderson .Paak sound similar sometimes. Well, and Anderson .Paak is a very talented drummer, so I could see why you're making the comparison here. When monks mosh, is it called headbanging to Nirvana? Please leave. Actually, no. Get out. Go. All right, so we got just a few more here. We got Bad Religion, not the punk band. Different mosh pit this time around.
Allahu Akbar, I told him don't curse me. Oh boy, you need prayer, I guess it couldn't hurt me. If it brings me to my knees, it's a bad religion. Taxi driver, I swear I've got 3 lives balanced on my head like stick knives. I can't tell you the truth about my disguise. If it brings me to my knees, it's a bad religion. Oh, unrequited love to me is nothing. It's a bad religion to be in love the way I do.
So that was Bad Religion. Again, not the punk band. You know, I think in a sense here we got like, I don't even really know. Like there's almost like certain sections of this album where we have maybe more, you know, it starts off with this overall sense of yearning with Thinking About You. Then I think that goes into like Fertilizer as well. But then from Sierra Leone's Sweet Life and Not Just Money to Super Rich Kids, this is, you know, commentary on wealth. And then there's like this brief aside about drugs and maybe back into like, you know, yearning and no. Pilot Jones was even about drugs too. So then drugs. And then we get like some sexy time going on. And now we're in like religious fervor, religious qualms. You know, I know that, is Frank bisexual or gay? So I know it's one or the other, but maybe to interpret that as, you know, this line, you know, to be in love with somebody who could never love you, that's a bad, you know, that's only a bad religion. So maybe there's, if you look at like, you know, they say, oh, God doesn't like the gays and, you know, all of that and, you know, feeling a big disconnect there. Although knowing Frank, this is probably a metaphor, maybe. Maybe for how much you love somebody, maybe they're like a god to you, right? Something along the lines of that as well. He's bi. Yeah. So I'm thinking like, okay, we could just take it at face value and say it's religion, and much like how the last song was about monks and, you know, enlightenment and that kind of a thing. We could just say that we're maybe just in the religious section here. Out of a drug-fueled place, the homosexual yearning always manages to overpower everything. Yeah, dude, poppers. But yeah, we got a little bit more gospel in here. And, you know, just, oh, man. This was
Never make them love me. No. It's a
fucking James Brown over here. Pink Matter.
What do you think my brain is made for? Is it just a container for the mind? This gray matter. What is your woman? Is she just a container for the child? That soft pink matter. Cotton candy. Majin Buu. Say when quiet, then violent. We sparred until we both grew tired. Nothing mattered. My God, giving me pleasure.
Butter knife, water life, anyway. I'm building y'all a clock stop. What am I, Hemingway? She had the kind of body that would probably intimidate any of them that were unsouthern. Not me, cousin. If models are made for modeling, thick girls are made for cuddling. Switch worlds and we can huddle then. Who needs another friend? I need to hold your hand. You need no.
Okay. So that was Pink Matter there. And, I'll reach for this. As far as maybe where this song is on the, on the album, like I said, I think you could make the argument that, there's like little sections about reoccurring themes as you go through the album. And, Pink Matter and Bad Religion and Monks, I think the through line there is maybe more existential, trying to find answers where there aren't any. So, there's this exchange between, the sensei and him. And I think maybe from what we saw in Bad Religion, as far as like, oh, well, if it's a one-man cult, that's a bad religion, maybe making that about, maybe a more romantic thing, right? Where, it's kind of bad to maybe just be in a relationship just to worship somebody. I think you kind of get that through this. So it kind of transitions as he's looking for advice through a mentor. Don't know what Majan Boo is. But then, we get back into, talking about a lady or talking about somebody else, right? Talking about somebody else that we need to make a connection with in some way, shape, or form. And also Andre 3000, everybody. Majin Buu is a character from Dragon Ball Z. Didn't know that. Wouldn't have known that. I played some of the video games, but never really watched the show. And also, like, how he sets, like, this metaphor up. Is it just a container for the mind? This is gray matter. This great gray matter. What is your woman? Is she just a container for the child? That soft pink matter. Ha, ha, ha. How funny. I'm really glad I listened to Blonde first and then this, because now, like, with this song especially, you're seeing shades of what we will get more of in Blonde. So this one was a little bit more, I don't want to say discombobulated, but just not as structured. We have these interludes with the guitar, little bit of genre blending, but not too much. We'll get into Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, you run my mind, boy. Running on my mind, boy. Forrest Gump, I know you're Forrest. You came Forrest. I was screaming, run 44, but you kept running past the end zone. This is love, I know it's true. I won't forget you.
I'm like genuinely shocked that my face isn't more sore for how much I've stank-faced, but here you go. Yeah, again, we're back on some good wordplay here and some fun songwriting. Run, Forrest. I'm not a smart man, Jenny, but I do know what love is. Right, so this idea that, he's got a boy in his head and he's running his mind, run, Forrest. That's about as deep as it gets for this one. As far as the lyrics go, I really do enjoy that take of having somebody on your mind and then them running your mind, because that's how it feels like sometimes, if you can't get somebody out of your head. Also, and again, I don't talk enough. I haven't been talking enough about the production here, mainly just because it all sounds great. But as far as from a bass and percussion end, this is one of the best albums that we've listened to in a long time. I don't even know what the percussion was. Just like, I don't know if those were MIDI, those are recorded like hand drums, but they're just filling out the headphones so well. And I need to get better headphones. I in the next few videos, you're going to see me with a new pair of headphones, I guarantee you, because I really want the most out of it. And I think these are starting to kind of degrade with age. This is a quick one. We started with start. We're going to end with end.
Looks like all we've got is each other. The truth is obsolete. Remember when all I had was my mother? She's got the special.
I wish you could see what I see.
And we're back home. And I want to listen to the end of that again, just real quick. No, okay. So I was wondering, like, is he popping a disc into the PS1 there, just like how it started? You know what I mean? Just to kind of create like a cyclical nature to the album. But that was really just like an interlude, if nothing else there. But, you know, through getting out of the car, going back inside your house, we are back home, which I think is really what you want at the end of a song, at least, or at the end of an album. Like, okay, you can go home now. It's over. So obviously very intentional there. I mean, it's called End, and it's the last song on the fucking album. So I'll just get straight into my conclusions here. What do I mean, it's fucking Frank Ocean. It was so good. Like I was saying, I do like how I went backwards with all of this. Whereas Orange, Channel Orange is very accessible, like we were saying. Although towards the end of the album, we got these glimmers of what will come in Blonde, as far as like mega super Frank Ocean, with all these crazy compositions and sounds, production techniques. And like I said, a lot of the themes and a lot of the lyrics and a lot of the atmosphere of Blonde was very dreamy. Well, this one's much more down to earth, and I could really appreciate it. So I feel so happy that I finally found...
A tornado flew around my room before you came.
That meme was just such a big part of my childhood, right? So was Vine, and so to find the origin of that was really quite something. And I didn't really talk about how great the features were on this album. Super Rich Kids, which, by the way, sounds a lot like Benny and the Jets, I think, right? It's this one, right?
Too many bottles of this wine we can't pronounce.
That's the Benny and the Jets theme. And Earl Sweatshirt does a great job, you know, really carrying the lower end of the vocals here on this one. But I think it needed that more matter-of-fact delivery. Whereas, you know, Frank is obviously he's going to be very flowery with his delivery. And we need it, and we're the better for it. You know, I like the little stages that this album kind of brought to us. At least that's how I interpret it, right? So, you know, we have discussions about wealth and money and of drugs and of, you know, seemingly existential fears here. You know, John Mayer coming in, and say what you want about John Mayer, but he's a very talented guitar player, and Andre 3000 is just the fucking genius. So we just have two geniuses working together here on Pink Matter. The songwriting and the wordplay found in a lot of the songs, but of course in Pyramids and in Crack Rock, I thought were just absolute fantastic. Crack Rock might be my favorite song. I think Crack Rock might have my favorite lyrics in it, just by how smart, you know, some of the ideas were brought around. And, you know, with a little rock left in that glass dick. Sorry, this is kind of jarring to say, but, you know, if you're a crack addict, that's how you're going to treat your pipe. You know, I mean, that gives you everything you need and more. So I really enjoyed the connections there. His vocals were fantastic. How the percussion and bass were produced on this album were absolutely terrific. This one is much more of I could play this album the entire way. I mean, honestly, either Blonde or Orange. I know I compare way too much on the channel. I understand that. Every time I sit down to react to an album, I say, don't compare to other shit. Just look at it for what it is. Shut up. And end up doing it anyway. But that's just me. And also, I mean, I haven't read any comments explicitly saying that I need to stop doing that. Channel Orange or Blonde? Yes. Correct. I agree with you. Channel Orange or Blonde? Yes. I mean, they are like so different but so similar. I mean, what you have between the two of them are some of the best albums of the last decade. That's just what it is to me. You know, I haven't heard Moon River or In My Room, you know, these singles that he's put out since. But, you know, there's this point to where, you know, you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Frank Ocean has sealed the deal in never making a stinker of an album. And I can say that now. I can. So as far, yeah, so he's got the 2 bona fide albums between Channel Orange and Blonde. Doesn't have a stinker between them. You know, it's a small sample size, but I think what you get out of these 2 albums, I think other bands or artists would kill to have a project even half as solid as either Blonde or Channel Orange. I think Blonde is inherently more heady, and I don't know what my reaction would have been had I listened to this first, then into Blonde. I mean, I think this stands alone as a phenomenal record, but it was cool to see the building blocks to what we got in Blonde. And I think he could have just stopped at this. He could have just stopped at this, and people still would have loved Frank Ocean. He's a legend. He's a fucking genius. He is so undoubtedly talented that it makes me hate myself. I really sit here in awe most of the time, listening and reading along to the lyrics, just to like try to at least put myself in the same headspace. To make those connections. Because, you know, anybody can write a song about love, anybody can write a song about money, but it's how Frank decides to do it. And with who he decides to do it with, between Earl Sweatshirt, Andre 3000, John Mayer, you know, making the connection like, oh, well, this dude's running my mind, so he's Forrest Gump. Like, yes, of course, obviously, correct. Haven't heard Blonde, but this was such a good time. Definitely one of the best things we've listened to recently, but given the last few times we've heard, there's really no comparison. Super solid album and a great debut. Oh, a phenomenal debut. One of the greatest debuts of all time. If you haven't listened to Blonde yet, if you haven't watched my video on Blonde, you should go watch that. But listen to the album first, then go watch my reaction, because I had some of, I think, my craziest, like, involuntary reactions to some of those songs, because like shit just came out of left field, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. Self-Control, probably more than any other song. Oh, God. I want Frank to do what he's comfortable with doing, as with anybody, right? But, you know, if he puts out an album, I'm going to be real happy. And it makes me feel good knowing that Frank Ocean was talked about for so long, and I never got around to listening to any of his projects. And I'm just so thankful that I got to share this experience with you. If you're watching on the Twitch channel or you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I'd love to do this more. So that was my reaction to Channel Orange by Frank Ocean. Please let me know your thoughts on my thoughts down in the comments. If you want to catch us live, if you want to check out the Patreon for early access for just $1, make sure you click the links down in my description. You may even find a funny little video down there. I don't know. All the links are trustworthy, I promise. And of course, let me know any other artist or band that you want me to react to here on the channel. I've probably reacted to 0.00000% of everything that there is out there, so it's kind of an open door for you to leave your recommendations down. But with that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Diggity dog.